No Prisoners by Karen Traviss marks one of the first chronological appearances of Captain Pellaeon, who first appeared in Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire, all the way back in 1991. And it also features Master Jyn Altis, Callista, and Geeth Aris, three Republic-era Jedi that were first mentioned in Barbara Hambly's Children of the Jedi. To explain the discrepancy between the freer Altisian Jedi and the rigid prequel-era Jedi Order, Traviss depicts them as quasi-renegades operating outside of the Jedi Order on Coruscant. No Prisoners was published in May of 2009, and as with the other Clone Wars books, I never read this one before. I was aware that it featured Callista, but that was pretty much it. So first, a brief summary. When Captain Rex, Padawan Ahsoka Tano, and 6 untested clone troopers accompany Captain Pellaeon on a routine shakedown cruise of his newly retrofitted assault ship, they're not expecting this training run to turn into a rescue mission for a Republic intelligence agent stuck on a world attacked by the Separatists. And when they encounter Jedi working separate from the Council on Coruscant, the foundations of Ahsoka's Jedi upbringing will be shaken to its core, and Captain Pellaeon will struggle with his motives as he's personally involved with the Republic agent. As the conflict increases, their loyalties and convictions will all be tested. So unlike Wild Space, which could be pinned down to 2 specific episodes of the first season of the 3D animated Clone Wars show, No Prisoners is set in a more nebulous 22 years before the Battle of Yavin time frame. It's obviously set after the novelization because Rex mentions how Torrent Company was decimated on Teth, but you can't really place it within a specific time. And the plot is pretty simple. Anakin wants alone time, so he dispatches Rex and Ahsoka and these new troopers to go to Captain Pellaeon and go on his ship for a little bit. They're not on the ship very long before they notice that there's something going on in the Fath system. And then Master Altis and his Jedi show up because they've gotten a distress signal from a Republic intelligence agent on the planet's surface. Her name is Hallena Devis, and she's romantically involved with Pellaeon. So he's like, this is a conflict of interest, but I think we should send a rescue party. So they send a rescue party, and it consists of Master Altis, Callista, and her fiancé Geeth, Ahsoka, Captain Rex, Sergeant Korik, who was one of the few survivors of Torrent Company from the novelization, and 6 brand new clone troopers. They rescue Hallena. Meanwhile, Rex contacted Anakin back on Coruscant, so he's jetting off to rendezvous with the Leveler. And this was the point in the book where I go, there's still like half the book left. Yeah, obviously they can't just rendezvous with the Leveler and everything turns out okay. More Separatist ships come in. The Leveler unexpectedly jumps to hyperspace, so then the rescue mission has to land back on the planet. Master Altis's other Jedi work with the Leveler to get back to the Fath system. They steal a shuttle, then they're able to rendezvous, and then Callista goes into the computer and they destroy all the Separatist ships, and then a little bit more happens. But that's basically it for the plot. I said in my review of the novelization that Karen Traviss really likes Rex, and I think in these books, he's the best character that she writes, and I would agree with that here. Rex is just such a good guy. He's looking out for the other troopers, he has a good strategic mind. While Ahsoka is probably technically higher ranked than him, he obviously has more experience than she does, and so they have like a good rapport together. And Rex is just an all-around like great guy. I think of all the POV sections in this book, I enjoyed reading his the most. The other clone troopers aren't as fleshed out. They start out and they're very newbies and they're trying to do everything by the book, and they don't really have the sarcasm and sass that Rex does. And then, of course, we lose two of them over the course of these events, which is sad, but not as sad as it could be when they don't really feel like real characters to me. Rex is sad about it, so I'm sad about it, but I didn't really know these guys personally. And Ahsoka, in encountering Master Altis, and specifically Callista, is confronted with Jedi unlike anything she's met before, and she doesn't know how to process that. They're not fallen to the dark side, but how can they allow attachments and still be so strong and open to the Force? I like the scenes between her and Callista because, again, I think that they get along really well, and Callista takes on this older friend, older sister role, even as Ahsoka's not sure what to think of her. Pellaeon doesn't sound right to me. He doesn't sound like a younger version of the character we met in the Thrawn trilogy. You know what he sounds like? He sounds like the Pellaeon we met in the Legacy of the Force series, and specifically in Revelation by Karen Traviss, which makes sense. She wrote that book. She wrote this book. But that Pellaeon is an old man. This is supposed to be a young man. And there's a line at one point that something like he has an old soul. No, I just think it's that she wrote him exactly the same in the Clone Wars as she wrote him decades and decades later. And he just doesn't sound right to me. He's a womanizer. He apparently has been involved with married women before. Excuse me? He's stuck at the rank of captain because he doesn't put up with that political nonsense. And he's very buddy-buddy with Rex. Rex is like, yeah, that Pellaeon's a great guy. If there's no officers, he cracks jokes in the boardroom. And I'm like, Pellaeon? Pellaeon was introduced in the Thrawn trilogy to be like the Watson to Thrawn's Sherlock Holmes. And in fact, some of the details we get about him in there, I don't think mesh up with this portrayal here. Part of it is that when Zahn wrote the Thrawn trilogy, we knew nothing about the Clone Wars, and he assumed that in the Clone Wars, the clones were bad, and the Republic was fighting against clones. I think that got retconned in a way that they ended up at one point, the Separatists have clones, and those clones were crazy and unstable, and so that's explained away. But I just don't see Pellaeon having this buddy-buddy camaraderie with the clones, knowing his attitude in books that were written and published earlier, but are set decades later. I also am not sure how I feel about Pellaeon having all these positive encounters with Jedi, because the sense I got of him from the Thrawn trilogy was that he was much more leery of that. Part of that could be that the clone Sabaoth is just absolutely off his rocker, but I would have thought that if Pellaeon encountered Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka and the Altisian Jedi, that would have been reflected in his attitude towards the Jedi, whereas in the Bantam era and then the New Jedi Order, it really felt like he had to personally encounter Jedi to get on this good footing with them, and that initially, especially as an Imperial officer, he never would have been like, oh yeah, Jedi, I worked with them, they were great, which is the sense I get from this Pellaeon. It's known that Karen Traviss didn't read other Star Wars books. She's stated that she doesn't read fiction. And nowhere do I think that is more obvious than her portrayal of existing characters, where I'm sure that she looked them up in source books and essential guides and read all about them. But I feel like there's no substitution for actually reading the books they appeared in, and that's why Pellaeon's just so off here. The Altisian Jedi, I think there's a little more leeway because we only saw Master Altis and Gaith in flashbacks in Children of the Jedi, and Callista appeared in just a few books. I think that the Callista of No Prisoners is a very kind woman. She's practical, she's sensible. I didn't get that sense of humor, though, that I got from Callista in Children of the Jedi and Planet of Twilight, that despite the horrible things that happen to her, she can still make jokes and laugh. And in fact, I would have thought that Clone Wars era Callista would have that quality even more because she's not been spiritually stuck on the Eye of Palpatine for decades after her death. She's a very nice woman in this book, but not quite Callista. Gaith is a nice guy. That's it. He's a nice guy. The sense I got from Children of the Jedi was that he was maybe a little cocky and arrogant. There's no sense of that here, but he's definitely not as fleshed out as Master Altis or Callista. And Master Altis, at times, feels like he's just a mouthpiece for Karen Travis's views about the Jedi, but you know what? That works because he is a renegade Jedi. He's a man who's trained thousands of people, who takes a very different approach to the role of a Jedi and how their life should unfold. He has some interesting perspectives on the Force, and again, he's a nice guy. Does he feel like he fits with Master Altis we saw in flashbacks in Children of the Jedi? I don't know about that, but there was so little to go off of that I'm fine with it. I thought that the romantic scenes between Anakin and Padme in Wild Space were truly cringeworthy, but they were a lot better in No Prisoners, but we really only get one chapter with Padme and Anakin to go off of, and then he comes back, and he's also thrown by the presence of Master Altis, and he says that Qui-Gon Jinn mentioned it to him when? We'll talk about that in a bit. And we do get like one conversation between Master Altis and Anakin towards the end, which I have to rate higher than, oh gosh, the terrible conversation between Nisha Halcyon and Anakin in Jedi Trial, but that's a low bar to clear. And then a Republic intelligence agent, Hallena Devis, is in a tough spot, and it's very clear that she's rapidly becoming disillusioned with her role in the Republic. She's sent to a planet that has a terrible dictator regent who's not treating the people under him well, but the Republic's like, we can't deal with that now, we just need their manufacturing, we don't want them to fall to the Separatists. She's not given the information she needs, which may not be Republic intelligence's fault, but it's clear that the rebels are a lot closer to working with the Separatists than they assumed, especially when the Separatists start invading the planet. She's betrayed by her comlink, she gets off a distress signal, but if that rescue mission hadn't shown up, things weren't looking good for Hallena. She probably would have taken the Star Wars equivalent of a cyanide pill so they couldn't get the information from her. And it's no surprise in the end that she leaves the Republic, she quits, because she probably would have died on another mission at some point, another mission for a world where the status quo wasn't good, but the Republic's like, we can't deal with it right now. I like seeing her working with Master Altis's group at the end, doing like relief work, trying to figure out what she wants to do next. And then there are no villain point of views in this book. We don't have Count Dooku or Grievous or Ventress. The bad guy is more just the nature of war. That the Republic is allowing bad people to stay in power, that clone troopers die and you don't even have the opportunity to mourn them because you just have to keep on fighting. Everyone sees Ahsoka and goes, oh my gosh, there's a child here. And I have to agree, like, how far has the Jedi Order fallen that we have children in combat? I think it's that slow decline where you can't pick a start date, but at one point you take a step back and you go, how has it come to this? There's no winners or losers here. It's not good for anyone. My first issue with No Prisoners is the length. My copy was 257 pages and the font is pretty large, and there's only 13 chapters total. There were definitely points where I was reading this where I was like, okay, this can't be all the plot there is, right? Unfortunately, that is the case. And as I did with Wild Space, I sort of want to go chapter by chapter and just give you like the chapter plot breakdown here to show how little happens in this book. In chapters 1 through 3, we are introduced to Hallena Devis and Pellaeon, and Anakin sends Rex and Ahsoka and the new Torrent guys to Pellaeon's ship, and the Leveler is diverted to the Fath system when they detect separatist forces. In chapter 4, Hallena is captured. In chapter 5, Master Altis arrives, and he and his Jedi and Rex and Ahsoka and the Torrent guys are dispatched to rescue Hallena. In chapter 6, they rescue Hallena. In chapter 7, their shuttle is chased and Anakin appears, so he wasn't on Coruscant with Padme very long. In chapter 8, the shuttle tries to rendezvous with Leveler, but Leveler unexpectedly jumps into hyperspace. In chapter 9, the shuttle heads back to the planet, and Leveler has navigation problems. In chapter 10, Leveler makes it to the Fath system using Master Altis's Jedi tapped into the navigation system to tell them when they should get out of hyperspace. In chapter 11, Callista goes in the firing system, the Separatist fleet is destroyed, the troop ship docks with Leveler thanks to Anakin. In chapter 12, Anakin talks to Master Altis. And in chapter 13, we have a little epilogue of sorts showing Altis's group helping Clone Wars refugees, and Hallena is with them. There were so many points where I was like, oh, so they're going to get involved in the conflict on the planet. No. And I was like, oh, they unexpectedly jumped to hyperspace. It's because the ship was sabotaged by the Separatists. No, it's just acting up. And I'm like, oh, it's going to take them a real long time to get back. It took them like one chapter to get back. I was like, oh, they're diverting to the planet. They're going to have to go underground, and they're going to be there for a while. They are not there very long before Pellaeon shows back up. And then Anakin has a conversation with Master Altis. It's one chapter. So much of this book just felt like, let's speed through this as fast as possible. And so it felt like the insights we got, while I enjoyed those insights, were very surface level. I think the biggest example of this is Anakin talking with Master Altis. Master Altis has sensed that something's going on with Anakin. He's in some sort of secret relationship, and the Jedi are not addressing this. Of course, I feel like Anakin's problem goes far beyond attachment to obsession. And so while I enjoyed that he got to talk to Master Altis and know that like another kind of Jedi exists out there, obviously he made no moves to go to them. We know the events of Revenge of the Sith. This is a tragedy waiting to happen. And I couldn't help thinking, I think there's a better person to have had an in-depth discussion with Master Altis, and I bet that's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan doesn't appear in this book at all. I don't think Karen Traviss likes him very much, but that would make sense if during the 12 years he spent as Qui-Gon Jinn's Padawan, that Qui-Gon Jinn talked about Master Altis with him. I mean, Anakin says, oh, Qui-Gon Jinn mentioned the name. When in the very short span of time between when Qui-Gon met Anakin and when Qui-Gon died, when did he do that? But I could totally see Qui-Gon talking to Obi-Wan about this other group of Jedi, and then Obi-Wan wanting to meet Master Altis to see what he's about. I think that Obi-Wan had a lot of the same questions and issues that Anakin did, but they just strengthened Obi-Wan's commitment to Yoda's Jedi Order. So it would have been so cool to have like these two very different Jedi talking about things, going into much more depth than Altis is able to do in one short chapter with Anakin. In Jedi Trial, Anakin met Nisha Halcyon, and I have the sense that someone was flipping through an essential guide and said, hey, this guy was married and had a kid. Let's have them interact. And it was terrible. It was one of the worst parts of Jedi Trial. So anything is better than that Jedi Trial conversation, but I wanted so much more here. And I think that's my biggest problem with No Prisoners as a whole, is that Travis is doing some nice stuff that I think that the anti-Jedi rhetoric feels so much better when it's not like absolutely anti-Jedi, but when it's, hey, I don't think the prequel era Jedi were right. I agree with that too. And so bringing in the Altisian Jedi gives Travis a way to be like, Yoda was wrong, maybe these guys were right. Maybe this is more what they should be doing. But there's just no time to really dig into anything here because this is moving at warp speed through everything. Looking at the chronological breakdown of Karen Travis's books from 2004 to 2009, which is when she was writing Star Wars books, she wrote a lot. We have her original science fiction series. We have the Republic Commando books. We have Clone Wars books. We have Legacy of the Force books. And I believe in 2008, she started to write Gears of War books. I can't help feeling that by the time we get to 2009 and we get to No Prisoners and the final Republic Commando book, that possibly she was suffering from burnout. Star Wars was obviously giving her contracts to write books because she turned in all her stuff on time, which was an issue that they had with other authors. But I can't help feeling that this book was rushed, and that if more time had been spent to develop it, to flesh it out, to deepen the conversations that people have, to make this more than just a 2-episode equivalent of an animated show, No Prisoners could have been so much more than it is. So in short, No Prisoners is short and fast-paced, and if you don't have much time to devote to books, you know, maybe this is a good one to try. 250 pages, it goes really fast, and I feel like Karen Travis's anti-Jedi rhetoric is softened by the fact that it's espoused by a renegade aspect of the Jedi Order. I really like Rex here. It was nice getting to see Callista and Master Altis again. Pellaeon is really off, and I honestly wish any other naval officer had been in here besides him. I think that there's some interesting things she's trying to say about the nature of war and the nature of this ongoing conflict, but it feels so surface level. And I really wish we had gotten more conversations between the Coruscant Jedi and the Altisian Jedi, that maybe there had been more going on with the plot here than just rescuing someone, oh no, ship issues, oh we rescued her, the end. Because I feel like No Prisoners could have been developed into a truly great Star Wars novel, and as is just merely fine, good enough. So next time I'm going to be finishing, in a way, the Republic Commando series with book number 5, 501st, an Imperial Commando novel by Karen Travis.
Hey, Bubby. Yes, you very good boy.
Are you doing this review now? What's your opinion of No Prisoners? Nothing. I guess I'm not out of a job yet.